This is Ireland. An island so thoroughly shaped by water that its own people call the weather a kind of company that never quite leaves the room. Rain here drifts in off the Atlantic in soft grey curtains that can part into brilliant sunshine within the same hour. And it is this endless moisture, carried on the warm Gulf Stream currents, that paints the hills in the deep. Saturated green the country is famous for. Locals have a name for it, 40 shades of green. Ireland sits at the far northwestern edge of Europe, a small landmass of roughly 84,000 square kilometers, set in the cold North Atlantic, closer in spirit to the ocean than to the continent it technically belongs to. To the west, there is nothing but open water until the coast of Newfoundland, 3,000 kilometers away, which is part of why the island has spent so much of its history looking outward, sending its people across that ocean in numbers that would eventually outstrip its own population. The seasons here blur into one long, temperate rhythm, winters that rarely freeze, summers that rarely turn hot, and rain distributed fairly across all 12 months. Grass grows nearly year-round, which is why cattle graze outdoors for most of it, and why Irish dairy and beef carry such an outsized reputation for a country this size. Locals plan around the weather rather than the calendar, checking the forecast the way people elsewhere might check the time. Since a bright morning can just as easily turn to a soft, drizzling afternoon before lunch. Roughly 7 million people live across the island, split between the Republic of Ireland, home to just over 5 million, and Northern Ireland, part of the United Kingdom, home to close to 2 million more. It is a population shaped as much by who left as by who stayed. Somewhere between 70 and 80 million people worldwide now claim Irish ancestry. A diaspora more than 10 times the island's current population, scattered through Boston, New York, Sydney and Liverpool, each holding its own version of an Irish festival every March. What does it mean to be a homeland for so many people who have never set foot on it? We're delighted to have you along for this one. Ireland rewards patience and a decent raincoat, and we think you'll love where this journey takes us. Leave a comment and let us know where in the world you're watching from, and tell us one place you've always dreamed of visiting. On a map, Ireland looks almost like an afterthought, tucked just behind the much larger Great Britain. It measures about 84,421 square kilometers total, making it the third largest island in Europe. Though the independent republic covers a smaller 70,273 square kilometers, roughly the size of West Virginia, home to a fraction of that state's population. The island's shape is often described as a shallow bowl, a ring of low mountains and rugged coastline around the outer edge, enclosing a gentler interior of lowland pasture, bogland, and slow rivers. The highest peak, Carrauntoohil in County Kerry, stands just over 1,038 meters, modest by continental standards, yet it dominates its surroundings completely. Rising straight from sea level, with nothing nearby to diminish it. Population clusters overwhelmingly along the eastern coast around Dublin and in secondary cities, Cork, Limerick, Galway, Belfast, while the western seaboard counties of Kerry, Clare, Galway, Mayo and Donegal remain sparser and wilder. It is a striking inversion, the gentler interior mostly given to farms, while the wildest scenery sits along the edge facing the open Atlantic. Entire parishes along that western edge now hold barely a few hundred residents, their populations a fraction of what they were before the 19th century. The empty cottages along the roadside, a quiet reminder of just how many people once lived there. The River Shannon, at 360 kilometers, is the longest river in Ireland or Britain. The cliffs of Moher rise sheer for 8 kilometers along the Clare coast, dropping over 200 meters into the sea, with the Aran Islands visible on the horizon beyond them on a clear day. Killarney's lakes, ringed by oak woodland and mountains, form one of the oldest protected landscapes in the country. Inland, the boglands of the Midlands spread across 5 counties, dark peat that families have cut by hand for fuel for generations, using a narrow spade called a slen. Beneath them lie preserved bog bodies and wooden trackways more than 4,000 years old. Travel west from Dublin and the change is almost physical. The motorway gives way to narrow roads bounded by dry stone walls. Fields shrink and multiply. And by the time the road reaches Connemara or Dingle, farmhouses sit in folds of bare granite and heather, sheep graze slopes too steep for anything else, and the ocean announces itself in salt on the wind long before it appears. The Burren, in County Clare, is a vast plateau of exposed grey limestone, cracked into flat pavements and deep fissures. Formed on an ancient seabed some 350 million years ago. Botanists still marvel that Arctic and Mediterranean plants flower side by side there, a quirk found almost nowhere else in Europe. The most extraordinary landmark may be Skellig Michael, a jagged rock pyramid rising 217 meters straight out of the Atlantic, 12 kilometers off the Kerry coast. Christian monks built a monastery on its upper slopes in the 6th century, and their stone beehive huts still cling to the cliffside today. a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Connemara National Park protects nearly 2,000 hectares of bog, heath, and mountain, dominated by the quartzite 12 Bens. While Lough Corrib, Ireland's second largest lake, spreads across more than 176 square kilometres, scattered with over 1,300 islands. Some holding monastic ruins 1,000 years old. Among geologists and hikers, Ireland has built a reputation as a living laboratory of deep time. Rock formed on ancient seafloors, carved by ice ages, its landscape a visible record of processes most countries have long since paved over. Closer to Dublin, the Wicklow Mountains rise less dramatically but no less memorably. Their granite slopes cloaked in heather and forestry, cut through by the deep glacial valley of Glendalough, where the ruins of a 6th century monastic settlement still stand beside two dark lakes. Close enough to the capital for a day trip, yet quiet enough to feel like an entirely different country. Before we head further into the wild heart of the country, we'd love to hear from you. Would you rather stand on the edge of the cliffs of Moher with the Atlantic wind roaring past, or take a quiet boat out to the ancient stone huts of Skellig Michael on a still morning? Let us know in the comments which calls to you more. Now, let's continue our journey together. Isolation from mainland Europe, cut off by rising seas at the end of the last ice age. Left it with a smaller cast of native wildlife than its neighbours. No snakes at all. According to legend banished by St. Patrick himself, what the island lacks in large predators, it makes up for in a landscape that still feels genuinely wild in its emptier corners. The red deer of Killarney National Park are the last truly native herd left in Ireland. And autumn brings the eerie, bellowing sound of stags roaring across the valley during the rutting season. Irish hares, a subspecies found nowhere else, bound across open moorland at speed. While otters, still common along quiet rivers, are considered one of the best indicators of how clean Ireland's waterways remain. Overhead, the golden eagle, extinct in Ireland for nearly a century, was reintroduced to the Donegal Mountains in the early 2000s. And the white-tailed eagle, Europe's largest bird of prey, now breeds again around the lakes of Killarney. Ireland counts roughly 450 recorded bird species, though only around 200 breed on the island. The corncrake, once common in every hayfield, has become a rare, treasured sound. And the puffin nests by the tens of thousands on cliff ledges at Skellig Michael and the Saltee Islands each summer. Grey seals haul out by the hundreds on remote beaches, their mournful calls sometimes mistaken for something human. salmon and sea trout still run up rivers like the Moy and the Shannon each year, watched by anglers who travel from across Europe for the season. The pine marten, once pushed to the edge of extinction, has staged a remarkable recovery and is now regularly glimpsed at dusk in forested pockets of the Midlands and West. Bats, 9 resident species in all, flicker out over rivers and hedgerows at twilight, most too small and quick to properly see. Out beyond the cliffs, bottlenose and common dolphins travel in pods along the west coast, and basking sharks, the second largest fish in the world, filter feed off the Kerry and Cork coasts each summer. Their dorsal fins occasionally mistaken by startled swimmers for something far more dangerous than a creature that eats nothing but plankton. The island's most reliable natural spectacle unfolds each autumn and winter. When Icelandic and Greenland whooper swans arrive in their thousands, filling wetlands across the Midlands with a sound early Irish poets described as music. Tied to one of the country's oldest myths, the Children of Lear, in which 4 children are turned into swans and condemned to wander Ireland's waters for 900 years. The first people arrived in Ireland by boat around 8000 BC. Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, whose earliest known camp at Mount Sandal in modern County Derry remains one of the oldest confirmed settlements in Ireland or Britain. Farming peoples who followed built Newgrange in County Meath around 3200 BC, older than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza. Engineered so that sunlight floods its inner chamber only on the winter solstice. Celtic-speaking peoples arrived over the following centuries, bringing the language, mythology, and social structure that defined Ireland into the Middle Ages. Christianity arrived in the 5th century, and Irish monasteries became renowned across Europe as centers of learning, producing illuminated manuscripts like the Book of Kells. Long before large-scale colonization, small Norse trading communities reshaped the island. Vikings, beginning their raids in 795 AD, eventually settled and founded Ireland's first true towns: Dublin, Waterford, Wexford, Cork, and Limerick. All originally Norse trading ports, their names and street layouts still bearing traces of that Scandinavian foundation more than 1,000 years later. The Anglo-Norman invasion of 1169 began centuries of English involvement, deepening under the Tudor and Stuart monarchs through plantation, in which land was confiscated from Irish and Gaelic lords and granted to settlers from England and Scotland, most intensively in Ulster. A divide that would echo for 400 years. Land ownership concentrated in the hands of a small Protestant ascendancy, while the majority Catholic population barred for long stretches from owning property or practicing their faith openly. worked the land as tenants under punishing rents, dependent almost entirely on a single crop for survival. That dependence produced the defining catastrophe of modern Irish history. Between 1845 and 1852, a fungal blight destroyed successive potato harvests, triggering the Great Famine. Roughly 1 million people died, and 1 to 2 million more emigrated, mostly to North America. On vessels that became known as coffin ships, the island's population, close to 8 million before the famine, has still not recovered to that level today. Emigration became a permanent feature of Irish life rather than an exceptional event. Later waves of Irish workers helped build the railways and canals of industrial Britain and America. And Irish communities took root from Liverpool to Chicago, sending remittances home and funding much of the political movement that would push for independence. The 1916 Easter Rising, though crushed within a week, galvanized public opinion, and the War of Independence led to the founding of the Irish Free State in 1922. Partition from 6 northeastern counties that remained within the United Kingdom as Northern Ireland, a division still being negotiated a century later. The decades after independence brought a bitter civil war, continued emigration, and, from the late 1960s, 3 decades of sectarian violence in Northern Ireland, known as the Troubles, claiming more than 3,500 lives before the Good Friday Agreement of 1998 brought a fragile, lasting peace. The most recent turning point has been economic. Ireland's low corporate tax rate and EU membership, secured in 1973, drew a wave of multinational technology and pharmaceutical companies into Dublin from the 1990s onward, a transformation nicknamed the Celtic Tiger. A severe banking collapse in 2008 briefly reversed those gains, but the country has since rebuilt into one of Europe's wealthiest economies, even as Brexit has placed the Northern Ireland border once again at the centre of Irish political life. Arriving in Dublin surprises many with its scale, or the lack of it. This is a capital of roughly 592,000 people within its boundaries, swelling to close to 1. $4 million across the wider metropolitan area, nearly 3 in 10 people on the island. Yet it carries itself with none of the sprawling grandeur of a typical European capital, favouring a compact centre built low along the River Liffey. From above, Dublin is organised firmly around that river, splitting the centre into a north side and south side, carrying centuries of good-natured rivalry. Its Georgian squares, laid out in orderly red brick terraces with doors painted in bright, individual colours. The historic core clusters around Dublin Castle, built by the Anglo-Normans in the 13th century on the site of an earlier Viking fortress. And Christ Church and St Patrick's cathedrals, both founded in the 12th century within walking distance of each other. A visible reminder of a Reformation that split a single tradition into two institutions occupying the same small patch of city ever since. A short walk away, Trinity College Dublin, founded in 1592, holds the Book of Kells within its old library. And its long, barrel vaulted long room, lined with 200,000 of the library's oldest volumes, has become one of the most photographed rooms in Ireland. Nearby, Phoenix Park spreads across more than 700 hectares on the city's western edge. One of the largest enclosed urban parks in Europe, home to a resident herd of wild fallow deer that has grazed its open grassland since the 17th century. Largely unbothered by the joggers and cyclists who share the park with them each morning, everyday Dublin runs on a different rhythm. Grafton Street fills each morning with buskers and shoppers, while Temple Bar, once a quiet warehouse quarter, has become the city's best-known nightlife hub. Its narrow lanes packed most evenings with music spilling from pub doorways. Moore Street, just off the main thoroughfare, has served as Dublin's principal open-air market since the 18th century. Its stallholders calling out prices in a rapid, distinctly Dublin accent. Leave Dublin behind, and the landscape softens into fields divided by hedgerows and stone walls.